There's a way to generate hundreds of motivated seller leads every single month, but I'll tell you right now, it isn't fun. In the past 12 months alone, we've helped our clients generate around 80,000 off-market motivated seller leads by mastering this one boring but effective lead generation strategy. Best part, you don't need to drive around town, you don't need to spend thousands on PPC or PPL leads, or text blast your way into a nice lawsuit. While everybody else chases these shiny strategies, this old school one gets ignored every single day, which is exactly why it works so well. And that strategy is cold calling. Look, we know anybody could just pick up the phone right now and start dialing. But how many of those would actually be successful? There's actually a science behind it. In order to generate high quality motivated seller leads that actually convert into wholesale deals, it starts with the pyramid right here. Data, dialer, skills of the caller. At the bottom and the most important, you have data. That's why it's the foundation. Look, if you have bad data, if you have an old list, if you're calling the wrong people, it doesn't matter how good everything else is, you're gonna have a bad campaign. The first step is understanding the types of motivated sellers and how to get their contact information. For this, you're gonna need a skip tracing tool that turns these addresses into accurate phone numbers. Some common skip tracing tools are badge skip tracing, TLO, or PropStream. And this is very important because if you're calling Joe on 123 Main Street asking if he wants to sell, if he's not the homeowner, if he doesn't live there, it doesn't matter how many dials you're going to make. You actually need to call the people who own the home because they're able to sell it. And typically per record, you can see anywhere between 0.07 to around 25 cents per record. It really just depends on the volume and the accuracy of the service. For example, you can go to Upwork, you can go to Fiverr, you can go hire someone overseas who will probably manually skip trace through True People Search for around a penny a lead, but that data is absolutely going to be garbage. Versus you can go to some of the premier skip tracing services in the market, and you might be paying 50 to 75 cents per record, but damn well it's going to be accurate and the right homeowner. Okay, now we have accurate numbers. Who the hell are we calling right now? With technology these days and the ability to make 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 dials a day, the difference between calling a list that has a 10% likelihood of being successful versus a list that have 12% over that amount of volume, it means everything. When I say cold calling is a science, it is, and we want to play in the areas where the numbers give us the maximum advantage. Some of the best specialized lists that will give you a 1% to 2% higher likelihood of them actually wanting to sell is your absentee homeowner list. These are people who own the property, but they don't live in it. Then you have your pre-foreclosure, the people who are behind on their mortgage payments, and the bank's gonna take their house unless they make them. Some other ones that I like are your high equity ones. Typically, these are boomers who own the home, they're paid out, and especially with a lot of boomers, I think around 20 to 30 million in the next 5 years will be retiring. They need a way to fund their retirement. That's why me and my team, we call a lot of our high equity lists and do seller finance deals, because the way we pitch it is, look, you want to sell your home normally, you're going to pay 25, 30% taxes on that. And if you know anything about boomers and the majority of the wealth that's owned by them, it's in their single family home. So yeah, they're going to sell their home for retirement, but then take a 25, 30% hit. So when we use the angle of, hey, if we structure the deal like this, you're going to get additional payments over the course of your retirement on top of your Social Security that's allow you to be more comfortable. It's that financial instrument. It's not really a financial instrument, but it makes sense to the boomers where they know they're going to be getting more than what their property is worth over a longer period of time that helps fund their retirement with the diminishing Social Security payments. Next, we have probate/inherited properties. These are properties in transition due to the death of the owner. And these ones, they're always tough deals. There's a lot of headache, there's a lot of emotions involved. But when people inherit properties that they don't know what to do with, especially if they're investment properties in, shitty areas of town, these are good opportunities to call on because some people just don't want to deal with any of it. Finally, you have tax delinquent properties. Owners who are behind on their property taxes who risk losing their property. Look, if they're at risk of losing their property, you get two options. One, you lose your property, you get nothing. Or two, you take my offer, you get something and you're done dealing with this headache. So when you're calling these types of lists that have that 1 or 2% higher likelihood of wanting to sell, over the amount of calls you can make in a day with technology, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 dials a day. Do that over 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. 100,000 dials over the course of 3 months. 1 to 2% of that is an extra 1 to 2,000 opportunities. An extra 1 to 2,000 opportunities should lead to an extra 2, 3, 4, 5 deals if you're good at closing. Speaking of infrastructure and technology, next you have the phone system. Look, data is that foundation. Like I said earlier, if you're calling a burnt list, if you're calling numbers that aren't even working, if you're calling people who don't even own the home, it doesn't matter how good everything else is. It's going to have a bad campaign. Assuming data is dialed in, next you have the phone system. Someone making 20 calls a day versus 2,000 calls a day, the person making 2,000 calls a day is going to have way more opportunities. We're referring to power dialers here. Systems like Mojo Dialer or Call Tools can dial 3 to 5 lines simultaneously. Look, I have my phone right here. If you go into your phone system and you go bum, 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 ring, 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 it's 30 to 45 seconds just for them to probably not answer. Versus if you're just sitting back here, headset on, automatically calling 3, 4, 5 people at a time, the same way it takes a normal person 45 seconds to make one dial, you can make 7 to 8 dials in that 45 seconds. So you're just maximizing the time that you're actually speaking to people on the phone. Obviously, once you get the leads, you got to push them somewhere. I recommend Podio, REI Automator, Freedom Software, really any go high level where you could organize your leads, organize them into different pipeline stages, as well as throw some follow-up automations in there, because you can get all the leads in the world, but if you don't have a follow-up system or a good sales process to actually convert on those leads, it doesn't matter. But beyond the basic tools like Dialer and CRM, you obviously got to have dialed in scripts that focus on motivation rather than property details, because look, we know everybody wants to sell their home at the right price. It's all about motivation. Why do they want to sell? Why are they listening to a random cold call and saying yes, they want to sell their home? Arguably where the majority of their wealth is stored. Next, you have the compliance systems. You want to be calling in a compliant manner. Make sure you're scrubbing for the DNC so that you don't talk to any litigators or ruffle any feathers. Next, you have call analytics. You want to make sure that you know how many dials you're making, how many connections, and what is performing the best. And those are all shown in your KPIs. Also, another really important thing to know about your dialer is the reputation of the DIDs. What do I mean by that? Not that many people will ever pick up a spam likely call. And there's something called stir shaken, which is a set of procedures put in place by the FCC to combat robocalls. And you have 3 levels, A, B, and C. A is that highest level where it's going to have that check mark. It doesn't show up as spam. B is unknown source, but not spam likely, and then C is spam likely. You also want to make sure you're calling from local phone numbers. For example, if you're from Chicago, calling from a 312 area code is going to give you that 2 or 3 higher % pickup rate. So making sure you're doing a lot of volume where the numbers are verified and not showing up as spam and that local presence, you combine that with a stack of a good motivation list. For example, high equity absentee homeowners. That's going to give you that 2, 3, 4, 5% edge that when you're calling over that amount of volume will lead to the extra 2, 3, 4, 5 deals. If you don't want to do all of this yourself, because it's pretty complicated, especially if you are training and managing other callers, what we do at No Accent Callers is we do everything for you. The data, the dialer, the training, the management, the skills of the caller, KPI tracking, all of that stuff so that you can pretty much get motivated seller leads on autopilot. Just like we did for Calvin, how he came to us doing 1 or 2 deals per month and we got him up to 150K per month. Or Eric, who got a lead, closed, and paid within 24 or 48 hours. So hit the link in the description and I'll see if we can help you out. But finding the right list and the contact information is only one part of the process, and implementing this next step, it could be the difference between 1 deal a month or 5, 6, 7 deals a month through cold calling. So we're at steps 1 and 2 of the pyramid, and setting up this cold calling infrastructure, it is high level stuff. Like I said, it's a science, but there's still one piece of the puzzle that separates the good wholesalers, the good cold callers, from the elite. And that's your cold calling script, but more importantly, the training of the dialer on that specific script. This is all about how you communicate with sellers during the call, because here's the thing, most of these sellers are not going to willingly hand over their property. You did just randomly cold call them, but once you know how to structure the conversations the right way, you're actually going to get deals across the finish line through cold calling. This is how the first 7 seconds look like. Hey, is this Joe? Oh, hey Joe, this is Ben. We represent some local home buyers here. I know I'm calling you out of the blue, but I just wanted to see, are you looking to sell your property on 123 Main Street? Most times they are going to say no. So it's very important for all cold callers to have dialed in rebuttals depending on what the type of answer is. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what those rebuttals are on this call. That is confidential information, but I could tell you the most important question to ask regardless of any part of the call. Let's say they did say yes. Okay, awesome. Like I said, I know I called you out of the blue, but why are you looking to sell? Motivation. Oh, I want to sell because I'm behind on my payments right now and the bank wants to take my house. Oh, okay, got it. And I know you said that you want to sell because you're behind on your payments. How soon are you looking to sell? Boom, timeline. Oh, I'm looking to sell within, the next 1 or 2 weeks. Got it, got it. And I know we are just talking right now, and I can't promise you any numbers, but is there a number that if we were able to get it for you, you would be able to sell within the next, 1 to 2 weeks so that you don't lose your house? Yes, $175,000. Boom. Asking price. Okay, got it, got it. Like I said, I can't promise these numbers. I'll go back to my team, but I just have a couple quick questions. Then we go into condition the property. Okay, awesome. Do we need to do any repairs? How much do you think it would be? Just really that information gathering script so that when we go back for our offer, we could actually give something that makes sense. And that's what everyone likes to call the 4 pillars of motivation: asking price, timeline, motivation, condition of the property. We're not saying on the call, hey, are you open to a cash offer? Because you can't go refer that over to an agent. You can't go do a sub 2 or a seller finance deal. Heck, even an ovation. We're not talking numbers, because as soon as you say a number, as soon as you take a type of exit strategy, you're clipped. Because if I call someone and say, hey, are you looking for a cash offer? Yeah, I want a cash offer. But we go do our acquisitions and we realize this is an awesome novation. And we go say, hey, we're going to list it for you. But you said cash offer on the phone. I only want a cash offer. And the deal is dead. And that one question I alluded earlier, whether it's someone who is not interested or someone who is ready to sell, awesome. By chance, do you have any other properties that you want to sell? Me and my team around 7 months ago, we closed on a 30-unit portfolio. We just called their random single family home and he was like, yeah, I want to sell. Awesome. We got all of it. Hey, do you have any other properties I want to sell? Yeah, I have 29 other properties within the area that I want to sell. We got information on all of them and boom, we wrapped it up. Now you're going to be getting a bunch of leads. You need to make sure you have a dialed in follow-up strategy. The biggest problem that most people see with cold calling is they expect these leads to be like PPC or PPL, where they get a lead, they call it one time, it doesn't answer, or they say, blah, 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 they give up on it. Look, typically it sees around 6 to 7 touch points to get a contract. For example, the work you put in the next 30 days prospecting, you see the results over the next 90. It's an emotional process to sell your single family home. You might have 10, 15 years of memories in there. You got to figure out where you move next. Expecting these leads to close on one call, it doesn't work like that. They say real estate is a people's business. It 100% is, especially if they're dealing with some type of emotional problem, which is why they want to sell. You got to get comfortable with them. You got to build rapport. You might need to listen to them talk about their grandkids for 2 or 3 hours. That's what it takes to get deals across the finish line. Now you should be able to generate leads pretty consistently, but there are a lot of steps that you'll have to do to nail down during the process, which takes some trial and error, especially if you're using overseas callers. So if you want us to do the data, the dialer, the training, the management of accent neutral professional real estate callers so that you can start getting leads on autopilot, hit the first link in the description and book a call below.